Hello and welcome to our big fat review of, where are we up to now?
1998.
That's right, we're getting there nearly to the millennium. They're mentioning the millennium every now and then, aren't they?
Oh yeah, they do actually.
Like 1999.
Yeah, they mention the millennium bug. There was one reference at Christmas.
So we're getting
that
there.
bug.
So we've seen it all. We've gone through all the highs and lows of 1998, and now we are here to discuss it all and what we thought about it. A bit of an odd year, wasn't it? It was like there was a real big slump in the middle.
Well, see, everyone built it up. The 98 was going to be a really good year. Like a lot of people, I think, remember it maybe more fondly
it's like
than
the winter,
it was.
basically, is like the good bit.
The winter of discontent. Yeah, when it's really started getting good midway through 98, and it's
There
led
was a change in EP, which is why.
That's right. Well, as at the time of recording is happening right now on current EastEnders.
So, yeah, highs and lows. I mean, every time we say we know if it's good or not when we have a build-up of episodes. And there was a point this year where we had about 20, I think. And that was in the middle. That was during the Ruth and Connor stars of the show era.
I hate Ruth and Connor. I really hate their characters so much. And there's nothing against the actors whatsoever, but my God, they're dull. Dishwater.
Yeah. Like, you thought Ruth and Mark were dull, but no, actually.
Well, at least Mark was there, which is, he's a kind of long-standing character, and you kind of, his story is interesting, and especially because you know what kind of happens as it goes forward. So, but Ruth, I have no real recollection of her, and Connor, I couldn't remember. And what's Annie? Is it not Annie? Mary. She's like an old woman version of Michelle. Like, they've obviously planted her there to be Michelle.
Yeah, tried to be.
They cut her hair like Michelle, they dress her like Michelle, she's kind of intertwined with Pauline, but then now she just kind of stands around the pub.
Because she like works in the pub, or works in the cafe, or works in the bar, or works on the market.
Where does she work now?
Work in the laundrette.
Well, no, because she broke her leg, didn't she, on their canal trip?
Pelvis.
On her pelvis, on her canal trip, when some guy was trying to, be forward with her.
In the forest.
In the forest. And then she slipped and fell, and Matthew found her.
And then blamed him.
He blamed him for it. Well, they did have that argument, because he wanted to... He bought condoms, didn't he? He bought condoms for someone else, wasn't it?
I think it was for Tony.
Yeah. And then she found out, and so she then
ran
thought
off in a huff and went with that other guy on a boat.
Yeah.
And then...
Well, no, then she got drunk at the pub, wanted to take drugs. Matthew was like, "No, you're being a twit." Then when they're back to the canal boat, they started making out. So she seemed keen on Matthew, but then she was like, "No, Matthew, I've told you already, I don't want any of this," and then ran away
and then was found in the forest.
And then the only one who really cared that she'd gone was Matthew, and as you say,
and
then
he found her as well, and then she didn't.
And she didn't want anything to do with him, but they've made it up now.
And Phil Mitchell helped her with pelvic floor exercises.
He did, with his leg exercises.
Yeah, I mean that was a weird. Like there was quite a few. Again, they're still doing the trips abroad.
Yes,
we had the spin-off series of them in Paris for the FA Cup, which was 3 short episodes.
On the FA Cup?
Or whatever, what was it?
The FA Cup.
World Cup.
Yes, it was the French World Cup.
So they were there for, it was like 3 episodes which are 10 minutes long with Barry...
that's right, because they got tickets. Or Barry got tickets to see the final, and then he found out he only
Pat and Roy went as well.
Yeah, and Pat and Roy also had tickets. But then didn't Pat and Roy give their tickets up so the lads could go see the final?
Something like that.
Because Pat didn't care.
It wasn't very good. They were like 10 minutes each,
yeah.
and they were really boring.
Pat was just like walking around France buying earrings and like eating patisseries.
And we had the barge trip, which was like with a load of dud characters as well. Like it was...
Oh, it's just a bit boring,
the 2 Demarco brothers chasing after Teresa because she was sleeping with someone and they didn't want her to do it, so they followed her onto a canal trip trying to chase her down, and they found out she was doing drugs.
Well, no, she bought drugs, and then Tony took the fall for it.
And it was Tony and Simon, which were again bit dud characters, and then Simon's boyfriend, who I can't remember his name, was there.
Oh yeah, he was there.
It was a load of like rubbish characters, so it wasn't the best trips abroad that we've
It wasn't the Blackpool week, let's just say that much. There was no Tiff, no Bianca,
there was no big star on it.
No Sarah taking a pill and then spaced out on the beach.
But this year it was a year of exits. So shall I go through some of the exits we said goodbye to? This is the last time they appeared. So Cindy obviously exited off screen and on screen at the same time.
Well, she died in prison, didn't she, during childbirth?
Yeah, because she returned. Michelle Collins returned after her maternity leave to do like the custody thing in court, and then she was in prison, and she was meant to come back, but didn't, and then they were like, well, we're going to have to kill you off then.
Yeah, didn't they do that out of almost spite? And Michelle Collins was a bit like, oh.
Well, Michelle
thanks.
Collins says that she was never asked back, she didn't know about it. The new producer says that he did ask her back multiple times, took her for dinners, said it needs to be now, I need to know some storylining, and she didn't reply.
Didn't bother.
So who do we believe?
I think with things like this, it's a little bit of one and a little bit of the other. And I think that one's telling some truths and the other's telling some truths.
They didn't need to kill her. That storyline didn't need to happen, did it?
Is she dead, though? I've said this on numerous occasions.
Yes, her sister went to see her body, didn't she? That sister who tried to sleep with Ian at the house.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, because he slept... he didn't sleep with her, did he? He almost did. Yeah, Cindy's sister.
Yeah, Gina. Was it Gina? I think it was.
I can't remember. But that's when it happened, I did think a bit like, oh, for goodness sake, why are you doing this?
Yeah, because that woman from Red Dwarf last year slept with him as well.
Kachansky from Red Dwarf, yeah.
So we said goodbye to her as well, because she did return for an episode, didn't she?
But she did a bit more investigations for the not ownership of the children, paternity of the children. Custody, that's it, of the children.
We said goodbye to George Palmer, sadly, the best villain.
The pantomime villain.
Yeah, he's again got an off-screen exit, which was all very...
Well, he broke his leg, presumably the actor in real life, didn't he?
He just turned up suddenly and he had crutches, like, I've broken my leg.
So he couldn't do any like real acting or anything, because every time he like kept walking towards someone, you could see he was like frustrated as he was doing his role.
And it was very obvious they didn't know what to do with him, because like he'd like turn up and like break up from Peggy and then disappear for months in New Zealand. Then he'd come back again. Then he'd propose to Rosa and say, Gianni might be my son, by the way. And then he'd disappear again, then come back, and they didn't really know what to do with him. But
that was weird. Gianni and Annie, when they didn't know they might be brother and sister, and then when they found out, Gianni then for 2 episodes, disagree with me if you like, but this happened. Gianni carried on trying.
Yeah, he wanted to try it, even though he didn't know if he was
be
a sister
with her. Yeah, so he was waiting for the. And I don't think he even took the test yet. No. But he was like, he was always like saying to her, "Are you scared? Do you think we should just do it? Let's see what fate rolls the dice, and we'll still have." And like Annie's quite rightfully like, "No." You could be my brother.
Stop pushing this.
Yeah, as it happens, they weren't brother and sister, so everything was okay. So I didn't get my incest storyline. I still haven't had
very close,
but no cigar.
That's the closest we've ever been.
Well, no. The closest we've ever been is Bianca and her dad.
Oh yeah, because he phoned Samaritan.
David Wicks, yeah. That's the closest we've ever been. But yeah, so that was really weird. But the Demarcos as a family being introduced this year. Did you?
Yeah, I mean, the 2 older ones, I can't remember that. The 2 older ones were awful.
You've got it on there, Bruno and Louisa.
Louisa and Bruno.
Louisa had a stroke, which was one of the funniest strokes I've ever seen on television. Not that I think strokes are funny, but the acting of the stroke was just great.
It was funny.
Like her voice was really croaky anyway. It's like
smoky.
It's like, what are you doing? What are you making? You making spaghetti? And then when she was having her stroke, she was just like going, oh.
It was like the stroke advert, like people on the advert, wasn't it? So.
Well, no, that was done well in comparison. The advert for Act Fast was much better.
So they got an off-screen exit too. They just went to Italy because she wanted to get better or something.
No, he's the father. Her what's the mum called? Rosa. There's her father-in-law, Bruno and Louisa, with the mother and father-in-law, and they didn't condone her getting together with George.
Oh, was that why they left?
Yeah,
I thought they just went to be in Italy to be.
No,
healthy.
they didn't agree with it. So they kind of said, like, instead of causing like a family ruckus, we're going to just kind of quietly leave.
I mean, literally within a year, they isolated that family, and now they're just like stuck on. They're a bit weird.
I mean, there was that rivalry between the brothers, the Mitchells and the Demarcos, and that was all right.
That will obviously go on more next year now.
Do you reckon there's going to be more of it? I thought they just
Tiff
kind of...
and Beppe? No?
Oh yeah, because Beppe wanted to be with Tiff, didn't he? But I suppose we'll talk about that in great length very soon.
We said goodbye to the lovely Sanjay and Gita. And
he was
Neelam.
the love of my life.
His hair. Never knew what it was going to do, did you?
Different hair every week. I can relate, you know?
But they had a funny exit, didn't they? Because
like a nothing exit, wasn't
Gita
it?
disappeared for like a year and a half.
Yes.
No one cared.
Well, no, people did care for like a week.
Sanjay
didn't. But then, Sanjay then just started dating other people. And then until he found out that Gita was still alive. She called... Ruth, yeah, she called Ruth, and then Ruth had to keep it quiet. Ruth had to borrow money off Pauline, but wouldn't tell Pauline what the money was for, and then gave the money to Gita. Because Ruth was in trouble because she couldn't pay the mortgage payments for the house. I don't know why because Mark's moved out. I mean, I think Mark was in his rights to say, well, no, actually, you move out, and I'll do the house, but he's too nice to do all that. And then, then she kept it a secret, but told Mark. Then Mark was like, I can't keep this secret. And then told Sanjay. And then basically the whole square knew by that point. And then
she'd had an affair and had a baby in this time, hasn't she?
But it wasn't even an affair. It was literally just like a one-night thing. I wished it was with her sister's husband. That would have been fun.
Or Guppy. Brought him back, maybe.
Bring back Guppy.
And that exit was it because obviously Polly exited as well. Our favourite...
the Wolford Gazette storyline. Well, she was a reporter, wasn't she?
Reporter, yeah, that was it. So she was at the welcome home party and she was talking to Sanjay and getting all the details, wasn't she? And then she wrote a big expose and she offered to take the photos for them. She said, just you two and the baby. And then that was in the papers the next day.
But I don't know how she got the pictures, because it wasn't her camera.
It was her camera. She offered to do it.
Oh, what? And then then she published the photos.
Yeah. So very sneaky.
Yeah, because she wanted to work on a national, didn't she, old Polly?
But they all got their last say to her because didn't Ruth Tony invited her round and Ruth appeared, had a go at her and had a slagging match. And she walked into the kitchen, then Gita came down the stairs. Like, I'm here too. And then she had a go at her. And then did Sanjay then come into the house as well and then say...
I don't remember, but it wouldn't have been.
It was like surprise, or this is your life for Polly. They all came in one by one and had a go at her and then she disappeared, so...
But then the family disappeared because Sanjay, Gita and the mum had to all move. Yeah. They said that their daughter was getting bullied at school.
Well, the mum left because she didn't agree with Sanjay taking her back and she sold the first till last to Terry.
Terry, yes.
He wanted to hide his divorce money and winnings from Louise.
He didn't think that they would be able to take money out of assets. So he did it on purpose. So his winnings, because he won on the horses, didn't he? He did a cumulative.
20,000,
yeah, he did an accumulative.
Thanks to Robbie's mistake, wasn't it?
Robbie made the mistake. He put it on the wrong horse on the last one. But he gave Robbie like 200 quid, which I thought was a really nice moment. Robbie's better this year as well, I must say. Robbie's, even though
Sonia returned as well without Carol.
Yeah, really broody as well. Like did you not notice? Like she constantly, like when Bianca was pregnant, she kept saying how she was going to be the godmother, and then she kept like wanting to hold the baby.
And she had that horrible moment when they had the party and that man came into her room.
Oh yeah,
she was like what, 14, 13, isn't she?
Really young.
So that was all distressing. Kathy, obviously she didn't leave forever, because she has returned since. But she did a big exit where she had all the men after her, didn't she? She had the vicar for some reason. Grant suddenly said he loved her just to add a random bit of something. Phil wanted her back, but she chose Ben and left to sabotage
her son.
Yeah,
not just a man named Ben.
No.
But then later, I was going to say later in the year we found out that she got together with a mysterious man called Gavin.
Introduced her to him.
Yeah, just Ted. See, Ted can do nothing right. Ted is the one who introduces Gavin to Kathy.
She got her own theme, didn't she, on the aeroplane?
Yeah, she looked
the jazzy theme remix to Kathy. So went on.
You fancy the vicar, don't you? You think he's...
Yeah, there's something about him.
I don't know what you
fancies him too. So it's not just me.
I really don't get what you see in the vicar. I really don't. I mean, he's got a nice body because you've seen it underneath the dressing gown and the dog collar. But like in general, like he's just really difficult to watch.
Well, he's not my favourite character.
No, I like his dad though. Yeah, I like his sister as well, who got introduced this year. Melanie Owen.
Not Mel.
No.
Not Owen.
No, oh, I'm sorry. Healy's.
Like Melanie. Not Mel. She's always called Melanie.
But Mel is like, she's like a non-character really, isn't she? Like she doesn't really go on to do.
Partnered her up with Robbie and Barry. It's like what? It's really weird.
But then Connor tried it on with her, and quite rightly, Mel was like, "Don't you dare."
That's because she knows he's a knob.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, when him and Ruth slept together, if like for days after, he was like taking off.
No, it's literally the next day. Taking the morning after pill.
Now she's like, all right.
Well, the main thing is though that it's like if he didn't want, but why don't you put something on the end of it before you?
Connor probably thinks, no, I'm too good for that.
Well, of course he does, because it's Connor.
You have to do it, Ruth.
Connor tells his daughter that he's not going to spend Christmas with him because he'd rather spend it with his mates in Ireland. Then finds out that Mel's going to be at the Christmas dinner that she's going to, changes his mind and goes to the Christmas dinner. It's like he's just...
He's horrible.
He basically
he's horrible to Ricky all year.
Yeah, that was unnecessary too.
Job.
Yeah, he took Ricky's
Then
job.
fired him.
Yeah, real unnecessary. Connor's really unlikable, and I'll be really pleased to see him go.
Nigel left to Scotland with his new woman, so they had a big storyline, which felt like a Christmas storyline, but it was in the summer where they were putting on a play. It worked for ages.
Well, it was the anniversary of something. I think
was
in
like
the
the
real
Queen-
world, wasn't it the Queen's Golden Jubilee or something?
Yeah, because they did research into when the Queen went through
Actual visited.
Albert Square.
Yeah.
That's why it's called the Queen Vic, isn't it? Or something?
Yeah.
That's what Claire researched.
And there was an argument between Peggy and Pat who was going to play the Queen Victoria.
Then Pauline said she would do it because Wendy Richards turned up for one episode and disappeared again because she's disappeared all year.
In her USA jumper.
And her fringe kept growing and she became
Her hair
blonder
was
and blonder.
wild, yeah.
She had
And
the same person who did Sanjay's hair properly. She was freed up now because he left.
oh yeah, Sanjay's haircut is now. And she's smoking a lot more.
She is, yeah. She's there like that, just in the bar like
Yeah.
this with her nails, her long nails. So yeah, she's smoking away. But she's, again, no storyline since
Really
Arthur died.
nothing. It's
She's
like
just hovering around.
Yeah, they've got nothing to do with
Dot
her.
returned as well because there's a fire in the flat with her mate.
So nice to see her back.
With her, I don't know what her friend was called. From New York or whatever. That
No, she
blonde
was
woman.
she was a performer, wasn't she? She was younger.
She's like a wild city child, and then they partnered her up with Dot.
At first, I thought she was going to be a really annoying character, but actually, she's really grown on me.
She's not that bad.
Especially over the Christmas period when her and Dot kept sharing stories, and there were some real lovely scenes between them in the Vic where they would kind of talk about their past, and she found out that Nick had gone to prison because she thought that Nick was her fancy toy boy, yeah. And then Dot was like talking about it, and yeah, so it was nice to have that relationship. I mean, we found out that Ethel was bedridden.
I didn't know
year.
not appearance from Ethel this year.
Not one.
So that's very upsetting. Nellie was like in 1 or 2, I think, wasn't she?
She was.
She turned up for something. Was it Nigel's? She was turned up for something. I can't
She wouldn't have Nigel's thing. She didn't care about
No, it was
Nigel.
something. I'm trying to think what it was.
Oh, Dot went to Nigel's leaving, didn't she? Even she wasn't going to.
Oh, yeah, she was all stubborn watching the Coronation Street, wasn't she?
She was watching Corrie, yeah.
We also had some really good two-handers, which was 2 episodes set at the same time, but from different like points of view, with Pat and Peggy in one house and Roy and Frank driving round London. And yeah, we saw like Pat and Peggy's point of view, and then we went straight to Roy's point of view because he was going to jump off a parking lot, wasn't
Roy had run away because his business, he basically got sold like 50 cut and weld cars or something like that. This is me trying to be manly.
And he thought Pat and Frank were having an affair again because Barry saw them
yeah.
near each other or whatever. So
Oh, that's right. No, Frank stayed with Pat. No, Pat stayed with Frank after...
they had an argument.
not Barry. Roy and Pat had an argument, yeah. Barry saw it. They kissed innocently on the cheek just to say thank you for, looking after me. And then Barry took the information and turned it upside
He told
down.
everyone. He told Peggy, he told everyone, didn't he? And yeah, we had some really good 2 episodes because it was nice seeing. Obviously, we know the "You Bitch You Cow" episode. That's like a famous one where they're having an argument in the house when they're waiting to hear if Roy's being found alive or whatever. But it was nice to see the 2 men, like the side of that.
Yeah, what happened at the same time with Frank and Roy.
They're 2 very well-rounded characters, aren't they, Roy and Frank? And just seeing 2 men go through this is something quite different, which you don't usually see. They don't tend to put time into male characters like that very often.
And, there was a car chase, I just want to mention that, which was hilarious. Lots of sped up film, let's just say.
Roy was going to jump off, and then Frank was, I'll jump off with you then, and got up with him. And talked him down. Then they went to some dodgy bar, which turned out to be like a strip bar that he didn't realise.
And we found out that Frank has a son.
He does. Danny Butcher.
Danny Butcher. Bring Danny Butcher into the show, that's what I say.
It's a bit late, I think. He should have come for Frank's funeral, maybe.
Well, it's just like they mentioned it. Because when they mentioned it, I turned to you and I said, I don't remember hearing that ever.
No.
Ever.
Never mentioned again.
Never mentioned again. Didn't you read an article or something? That the
producer, Matthew Robertson, he said he did it because they needed to add a layer onto Frank to show that what he'd been through and how he ran away to Manchester had repercussions because it was a 3-year thing. And they needed something for him to allow Roy to open up to him. So they invented that, and they said they put it in there in case a future producer wanted to then use it and create a storyline for
And they
it.
never did.
No, which is odd, isn't it?
So, but he was 1, wasn't he, when he mentioned...
He was he was like 2 or 3, wasn't
2 or 3. So how old were he? He'll be 24, 25? What a great age to introduce a new character to a current roster.
You said they should get another comedian like Mike Reed to act.
Obviously not Mike Reed, because
No,
he was
like
a bunch
Mike
of...
Reed,
Yeah,
like
who was it? I
someone-
actually suggested someone, or you suggested someone from
I can't remember who it
Taskmaster,
was
wasn't
now.
it? One of the contestants from Taskmaster. But comment below if you're watching this on YouTube, or follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and let us know who you
Who
think
should
could
play
be...
Danny Butcher?
Who should play Danny Butcher?
Has to be
25-year-old
a
Frank.
comedian, British comedian.
Yeah,
who
British-
can also act.
Yeah. It doesn't necessarily have to be a British comedian, as long as they can put on a London accent.
No, it has to be British, like Frank.
Okay, fine. I'll take it.
And then what else did we have? We had Terry and Irene's wedding, which introduced us to Tiffany's mother, Louise, who turned up to stop the wedding because he's a bigamist.
He's a bigamist.
She wants her divorce now and wants all his money, even though she left 13 years ago. And she was quite heavily involved in the last quarter of this year, wasn't she, Louise? They really did push her into like the forefront because she went to live with Ruth. And she redecorated Ruth's house with like candles and glittery things.
She made it much less dull, which is surprising when Ruth is like half her age.
And there was a big thing about her being an old and stuff, which was all a bit odd because her and Grant had like a thing, but they're only 2 years different in age.
She's only like 2 years older than her, but he kept saying really weird things like granny
and stuff. Yeah,
and you're too old to be, and it's like really weird. It's like there was no problem with Grant being with Tiffany, none at all.
Way younger.
He was way
he was
younger
a granddad
than him.
basically to her.
Yeah, but when them two got together for their, not even an affair, they just slept together. It was like, everyone kept criticising them or her specifically, which I thought was really wrong that they did that. It was like, again, it was blaming the female, blaming the woman rather than
King Grant, isn't it? But that was like the big storyline that took us all the way to New Year's, where the affair... Well, it wasn't the affair. They slept together once, didn't they? And they kind of kept looking at each other longingly. And Grant, of course, fell in love.
Well, there was a build-up to it, wasn't there? And then he was like, I don't love your daughter, I love you. They kissed, but then she quite rightly said no, and it got build up.
Heard on the baby monitor as well. Tiff did, didn't she?
Yeah.
Just when she was going to accept Grant again, wasn't she?
After a lovely night out, they finally accepted each other. Grant said he finally fell in love with her. Finally, after 3 years.
And then Tiff hears that, and then from there it was
chaos.
All go downhill because obviously I remember
downstairs. You might say
it did. I mean, I obviously remember the scene where Tiffany runs out and gets hit by a car and dies, but the stuff before it I don't think is as remembered. But it puts it all into account because you see Tiff get hit by a car and you're like, that wouldn't kill someone. But when you have the stuff beforehand, you're like, oh, okay, there's been all these sort of health issues leading up to this.
But also you have to remember that the whole fact that like there was the mystery, not the mystery, but the kind of like the debate around the square of whether Grant would push Tiff down the stairs was also strengthened because of the history that they've had. As recently as
with Sharon.
Yeah, because as recently as like her buying him that Falklands book, and he was like, how dare you buy this book about, and like there was quite a violent confrontation between her and him then as well.
And Peggy kept witnessing it, didn't she? And
yes.
She was always sticking up for Grant, but then obviously this all happened, and even she in the end
she didn't want him to be a son.
Tiff, didn't she?
Yeah, because when Tiff said she was leaving on New Year's Eve, Peggy was pretty much like, you know what?
I don't blame you.
I don't blame you. I get it. I get it.
And I do entirely blame Grant. It was all his fault. I don't blame Frank. I don't blame Louise that much. It was just Frank being horrible, bully. And even again on New Year's Eve, he was ripping Courtney from her, chasing her around, pushing her onto the floor.
He was dressing up Courtney to take her and run away with her himself. And when Tiff found him doing it, he just kind of on this really kind of grinchy, wry smile and was like, yeah, what are you going to do about it? And it's like, oh, go away, Grant. Go away.
It was really horrible watching, knowing that she was going to die as well, because there was all these moments where you're like, well, this is her chance, and then something happens, and then Bianca said, oh, I'll get Courtney.
Yeah.
And she gave birth early, so she couldn't help, and all these things sort of like, you're running out of chances now, and then obviously we knew what was going to happen.
I was so frustrated at the end because like when everyone, it is mentioned twice as well beforehand, there's still a restraining order on Grant. So if he goes near Courtney or Tiff, then you're going to. And why didn't she? I know it was panic ensued. She wanted to get the child and go. But why didn't she just go phone the police and say Grant's got my child? Then it would have been solved.
Well, he grabbed her off and ran downstairs.
Well, he ran downstairs, ran outside. He pushed her onto the road.
Yeah, because she had something. She'd just gone down the stairs and she had like a brain clot, didn't she?
Yeah, so that probably wobbled her head a little bit.
Yeah.
So may have made her a bit more confused. And then she carried on chasing him. Then Frank was turning around the corner,
rushing home from his job in Manchester. Also needs to get back to
see
Peggy. Peggy wanted him home.
Yeah,
so maybe Peggy's.
But he had no. But that's another thing.
No grit on the road, and it was all frosty, wasn't it?
It was snowy. That's another thing I noticed. Like leading up to that, you saw Frank kind of like twiddling like on the radio and looking at the thermostat thing, and I thought because I remember the scene, but I don't remember the kind of like leading up to it. And I thought, they're going to make out that Frank wasn't actually looking at the road, but I'm fairly certain it was literally a blind corner.
Yeah, and he tried to emergency stop and it was a icy road.
Too icy.
So it's Grant's fault.
100% Grant's fault. 100%.
I'm looking forward to seeing the aftermath. I think it is sad they did kill Tiff, though.
It was really sad.
Even though I knew it was happening, but it's like, it feels so unfair that she went through all that and then just died, and then Grant obviously gets
away with it almost.
So yeah,
but because I suppose he gets away with it also because surely his statement now would. Well,
Tiff wrote a letter, didn't she? And she gave it to Bianca.
Yeah, but would Bianca hand that in? Do you think? The thing is
to wait and see. Well, because next year.
That's true. But Grant helped her give birth, so he's had a little bit of a check mark by.
Well, no, because Tiff said to Grant, "I've made you innocent. I did it so I can get away."
So you reckon he's going to find out Bianca's got the letter and he'll then force her to give it to the police? He will as well, because he gets away. We know will he get away? We don't know. 999 blah. No. Find out in the review 99. But he's such a. It's a lot of people have said it as well. It's like obviously watching now in hindsight, it's a different kind of viewing, especially in the world we live in compared to 98. It is a much more different
away with
world.
A lot for a character, isn't he? Yeah, people still love him, and they've never really given him his just desserts. Really,
no, not at all, not at all. I mean, I don't think the actor would ever come back to current EastEnders now, though.
He comes back every now and then, maybe for a special.
He hasn't since Peggy died, and even then he left before the aftermath. So he didn't stay
I think
for long.
He would just for like a few.
What, to make Grant basically go to jail or something?
No, maybe if Phil was leaving, he'd come back or something like that happened.
But Courtney could come back with Frank's son,
Danny
and Courtney. Just saying, but
small world.
It's a very small world when Wolford's involved. But yeah, it was the ending for Tiff when she laid on the road and the last thing she saw was Grant holding the child.
It was a really horrible. They like stayed on her face as well while she was dying.
The drift was her eye and a tear coming out. It was
really
horrible.
It looked like she was in pain for like a good 20 seconds there. So it was just horrible. Not nice.
Phil cried. Did you see? Phil cried. He turned over round to Peggy and hugged her.
Yeah, Frank was very upset as well. Very mournful.
Yeah.
Bianca was shouting.
I thought Bianca was going to do like a really visceral scream, like she's dead, but she didn't.
No,
it was lacking.
No, I thought that was good because it just focused on Tiff's last moment on the curb. And also, right at the end of the year, we got introduced to Steve Owen, who's bought the club from Annie.
Yes.
So I think Annie will be off fairly soon.
I think it's a shame. Palmer. I remember Annie being a much more enjoyable character when I first watched it.
She never quite fitted in, did she? She was a very difficult character to fit in, I think. She was so bolshy and on her own. She was a bit like Mel Owen in 2019, isn't she?
1819, yeah.
And she's just business club woman who doesn't care for anyone, and it's a bit hard to mingle her into everyone.
They have a problem with quite strong, powerful women in EastEnders.
They just make them have babies. It's like that's their go-to.
Yeah, their way of trying to like getting them into the show is by making them pregnant. They don't really like them to be kind of. It's strange because they're really good at matriarchal, powerful women characters. When business savvy,
younger women come in,
they seem to have real trouble kind of writing.
They punish them, for no reason.
Yeah, and normally with a man who's kind of like overpowering them in one way or another.
Well, she almost got with Phil, old Annie, but she stayed away from that.
Who didn't almost get with Phil this year? Really, let's be honest. Phil was playing the game all year, wasn't he? He was like going for anything and anyone. One of his
ex-girlfriends turned up, didn't she? And she then fancied Grant.
Oh, I'm thinking of the alcoholic.
Oh, her, Lorna. Yeah, she turned up and stayed with Kathy, didn't she? Just
That's right.
Final last straw for her. Yeah. But yes, I mean a very mixed year. We have to give our rankings now. Our grade, our S to F or U. Maybe haven't had a U yet, but
why are you predicting a U's coming?
I'm just saying. I'm just letting everyone know the scale that we're on.
Thing is, I probably again say this every time we do a review of the year. It was a year of two halves. The beginning was a very drawn out, long,
and a real Ruth summer.
It's a real Ruth summer.
Ruth's never good.
No, and it was really difficult, and I don't know. It just did. And there's a lot at the beginning of the year that's not standing out for me. While at the end of the year, there's bits that really did kind of jump out.
Basically, from Terry and Irene's wedding onwards, I would say it kicked up.
I mean, when was Irene introduced this year? Was it this year Irene was introduced? And she became friendly with
last
Terry?
year because Ted left and then she came in the next episode to replace him.
Right, yeah. So we've got a brilliant replacement.
She was very good, but she went missing a bit like Wendy Richards. She kept going missing, didn't she?
Well, she did
Irene.
her back in, didn't she? On
yeah,
the
that was
screen.
in a quick 10-second scene they filmed. So I don't know what happened if the actress was ill or...
Maybe
or had commitments.
I mean, I love Terry and Irene.
Next year, though. I think Irene, hasn't she?
Terry and Irene, I really love them, and the two actors clearly play off well together.
Yeah, instantly you just know they're good characters, don't you? So you going to rank first then, grade or?
I can grade first.
I already got mine in head.
I mean, Pat did get the cafe, which for me is a perk.
She did. Ian wanted her to have a minimum charge in the cafe.
Yes. And Phil was all for it until he realised it was free and beer, and then he was like, nah, I'm not doing it anymore. See, that's something else that developed this year. The Peggy and Pat rivalry that everyone knows and loves. That's started now. There's the odd dig here and there, like when Pat called her a grandmother. And the Ian and Phil kind of rivalry is starting to bubble. Instead of like Phil kind of did things for Ian because of Kathy.
Yeah, now she's not there. He
doesn't really care quite so much, and so he's kind of there's that happening. So like things that you remember from classic, kind of mid-classic era EastEnders is starting to happen. I'm going to give this year because the end of the year was just so good, a B+.
B+? Oh, I was going to do C-.
C-?
Well, the middle was so...
I didn't think it was that bad. Not C- bad. Oh,
okay, C then.
Yeah, but that's a real difference. Obviously, I enjoyed it a lot more than you.
I just remember the middle being very...
I mean, if
treacherous.
I'll put it down to a B, just because I'm now thinking Ruth really did ruin a lot of it.
And Connor and the barge trip.
I didn't mind the barge trip as much as obviously you did. The only thing that annoyed me about the barge trip was like the Demarcos kind of bullied their daughter around, and I didn't like. Yet again, it was men kind of bullying a woman around, and I don't like that. I don't see what the.
She reminds me of Habiba so much. The actress.
Who's the actor who reminds me? Oh, it's Gianni. He reminds me of Danny Dyer.
He's very much Mick Carter, isn't he?
Doesn't he? He just the way he says things and acts. It's really weird. It's like every time he's on screen, I cannot not see
he's very like
Mick Carter. It's really weird. Yeah, I'll go to B. I'll go with a B.
B and a C- then.
I can't believe C-.
It's not that different from a B. Okay, C.
It's 4 grades down. B-, C+, C, C-.
Okay, C. You're a B. What are you?
I'm a B.
B and I'm a C then. So that's what we rank. Let us know what you guys thought and what your rank is.
Comment below if you're watching on YouTube.
Yeah, your pluses and minuses, highs and lows.
Yeah, our Twitter and Instagram. You can find us at Walford Weekly. Or you can find us on our personal Twitter and Instagram. Details on the show notes.
So there you go. That was it. That's another year done. And now we go on to 1999, which is meant to be very explosive and one of the best years ever. So we will look
so we're led to believe.
Yes, I mean, Saskia's running around keying cards.
We forgot to mention Saskia is getting introduced.
Yeah,
New Year's
Saskia
Eve.
and Steve, isn't it? So that's going on next year.
What's his face? The one who, it happens next year. Oh, the son. Oh, gosh, I can't remember the market seller's stall. Matthew Rose.
Yeah.
What's his dad and his mum?
Susan and Michael, I think.
Michael Rose, yeah.
Mike, yes.
We should mention that Susan she lost her MS. It was a miracle.
I know, it was really weird.
Yeah.
Not referenced anymore. Like, she had one scene where she was walking around the Vic in like crutches, and then at the end of the year she was raving. So they kind of just forgotten that. I mean, MS does go in waves, but it's literally not being mentioned.
I forgot about Hugh and Lenny.
I don't need to mention that.
They had another bad year as well, didn't they?
Oh, really? It surprised me. Well, hopefully they go soon.
The squat.
Yeah, I don't like them. And Mick also got his mum introduced and sister, who he didn't know was his sister, and she now works on the bar. So they're around. He works the night cafe, doesn't he? And the mum.
Oh, yeah, Mick's mum and sister.
But there again, I think they're more next year, so we will do that next year.
And Bianca giving birth. We didn't really mention
Liam, yeah.
To Liam. That was quite a big thing. It all happened, like, I think the B is literally December and November.
It did all happen.
That's
and
where it
there was
happened.
really good stuff with Bianca because she was really worried because of what happened to her pregnancy before. And that obviously reflected on how she was acting for this year, which was really good.
But it's a miracle that Liam in 1998 is acting more mature than current Liam. So that says something, doesn't it, about the role?
You haven't seen the end of Liam yet, so you don't know. He might have a good fourth quarter, like 1998 did.
True.
Well, there you go. So I hope you enjoyed our review, and we will see you in a few months for our review of 1999. Goodbye.
Bye.